Hello, Americans. Stand by for news.
Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number one contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
This is the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. All the classic rock news of the day. With your host, Jeremy Lunnan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You know, as we're a global program, there's no telling what time zone you might be joining from. So whatever the time it is where you are, that's the time. So thank you for joining us. It's time to get started. Good news. Aerosmith has announced the rescheduled dates for their Peace Out Farewell tour. Remember, this launched way back in September of last year, but after only 3 shows, they had to bring it all to a screeching halt because Steven Tyler suffered damage to his vocal cords. Well, the good news is they're back. Okay. And it looks like September 20th. So they basically delayed the thing for a year. So September 20th, it will kick off again. Steven will be healed by then. And except for the opening night, the Black Crowes will be the support act. That'll be a great show, actually. A nice pairing, I think. Black Crowes and Aerosmith. So that's all good news. I mentioned last weekend, my friend Steve messaged me and said, hey, have you heard the new Black Crowes album, Happiness Bastards? It's a great album. I've listened to it a few times since then. So if you haven't heard it yet, I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it. And they'll be opening for Aerosmith. What's not to like about this? Now, last year, originally, they had made the announcement, and this still holds true, that Joey Kramer, the band's original drummer, will not be participating. The band said, quote, while Joey Kramer remains a beloved founding member of Aerosmith, he has regrettably made the decision to sit out the currently scheduled touring dates to focus his full attention on his family and health. Joey's unmistakable and legendary presence behind the drum kit will be sorely missed. So Joey won't be there, but everyone else will be there. You got Black Crowes opening. This is good news. Good news. Speaking of drummers, one of my favorite drummers, the quirky Stuart Copeland of the Police, and I mean quirky in the best possible way. I think he would even say he's quirky. No one drums like him. He's an excellent drummer. He talks about the first time he learned that Sting could sing. So apparently they played together for quite a while and Sting never sang because they were like backing other people and stuff. They were performing in Germany, part of a unique variety show, which also included lasers, ballet dancing, a jazz saxophonist, all these different elements in this. He says one of the elements was jazz singer lady, and she was sort of the Sade of her day. And one day she made the mistake of walking away from the microphone, end quote. He continues, he says, quote, young Stingo walks up to the microphone and starts this keening wailing. I don't know how to describe it, just yodeling. Anybody who ever came to a Police show knows exactly what I'm talking about, you know? When Sting goes off, he just starts some repetitive vocalization combined with the bass line that we never heard before. And he and Andy thought it was phenomenal. He continues, quote, every heart is broken. The Byrds stopped their song. Andy and I are in the shadows next to him going, holy gopher F. Where did that come from? And he just, like he takes flight right there in front of us. And we're going, expletive. Blew him away. He said we'd only heard him yelling before that, you know, because that was his brief in the punk band. But to just hear him soaring with that kind of melodic invention, none of that would have been allowed in London. We would have been torn apart by the New Musical Express and by Melody Maker and so on for such musicality. I just thought that was a funny story. Sting is I know a lot of people aren't huge Sting fans. I think the guy's phenomenal. He's a great singer. He's a great bass player. To hear him play, to watch him sing and do what he does on the bass at the same time is amazing. He's a super talented guy. Super talented guy. As it celebrates 130 years of music history, Gibson, I'm talking Gibson guitars, the iconic global instrument brand, is rolling out a Slash model, the Slash Jessica Les Paul Standard from Gibson. Jessica is the name of the Les Paul that Slash has had since 1988. Gibson apparently sent him a couple guitars in the late 80s. Here's some things that people don't know. Slash's very first guitar, I don't know if it's his very first guitar, the Gibson Les Paul that we're all familiar with, like on the Sweet Child video, it's not actually even a Gibson. No, it's one of these custom built to look like a Gibson. But he did get some Gibson Les Pauls from Gibson right after that, when they broke, right? And one of them, the one that you see him playing most commonly, is he's named Jessica. Well, Gibson is putting out a version of the Jessica Les Paul. Pardon me while I get nerdy here, but it features a 3-piece plain maple top on a non-weight relieved mahogany body, which means it's going to be heavy like a Les Paul should be, and a mahogany neck with a 1950s vintage neck profile. Jessica is powered by a pair of custom Burstbucker pickups with Alnico 2 magnets that are hand-wired to orange drop capacitors. Originally a bright cherry sunburst, Slash had Jessica refinished, which is reflected, minus the considerable road wear on the original, in the gloss nitrocellulose honey burst with red back finish used on the new model. Pretty cool. And the good news is you can probably get it for only 10 grand or something. Don't get me going on Gibson. Okay. I love Gibsons, but they have priced themselves out of the market and they're not worth what you pay for them. They aren't. I bought my first real Gibson Les Paul in 1984. I was a senior in high school and I paid $350 for it. Like a dummy, I sold it 5 years later for $550. And I literally cry myself to sleep at night over the fact that I got rid of that Les Paul. Beautiful guitar. And now if I have dreams that one day on eBay, I'll find the exact same guitar and I would recognize it. Because it was a Norland era, so probably made in about 77, a Norland era Tobacco Sunburst Deluxe. If you remember, if you're a guitar nerd, the Deluxes came with the mini humbuckers. This was a Deluxe that had been rerouted and someone had put DiMarzio super distortions, cream-colored super distortions in it. If I were to see it, I would recognize it if it still had those pickups because of the wear marks on the back of the neck. Very distinctive wear marks. I dream of finding it on eBay someday. And who knows, it'd probably be $3,000. But you know what? I'd buy it. To have my original Les Paul, it'd be worth it. I'm getting sad thinking about it. But yeah, Gibson has priced themselves out of the market. The Les Pauls they make today probably aren't as good as they were back then, but they want an arm and a leg and a lung for them. It's kind of sad, actually. For the money, you can get way better guitars, which is sad because Gibsons are iconic. But they've just priced themselves out of the reach of real people. Only rich people can buy them, basically. Judas Priest guitarist Glenn Tipton, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's 10 years ago, talked about his role in the new Priest album, Invincible Shield. You guys know I love Invincible Shield. It's a great album. He said, quote, "I played what I could and I'm very proud of the whole album. Richie helped a lot. I think his strongest attribute is his ability to adapt to different styles whilst maintaining his own very strong character. Priest requires a guitarist who can shift from out and out metal to more melodic tracks. He continued, obviously the drawback for me now is Parkinson's, and I've had to pass a lot of work onto his shoulders. I keep pushing myself because I believe in no surrender. This disease won't beat me, and I will continue writing and playing for as long as I can. And then Richie Faulkner chimed in. He said, with Glenn's situation, he wasn't playing as much lead as before, but that's okay. We didn't want that to impede the process. If Glenn was having a good day, he'd play the part. If he couldn't do it, I'd do it. We didn't want him to worry. He brought songs to the table like Sons of Thunder, which is a classic 3-minute track in the style of Hellbent for Leather. Glenn is the master of that stuff. He was as involved as he could be, and it was important for us to involve him. So what Tipton has been doing on this current tour is not every show, but most of the shows he'll come out and play the encore where they do Metal Gods and Living After Midnight. But yeah, obviously Parkinson's is very debilitating and tough for him to handle the rigors of the road. And we just wish him the best as he does, but he's still contributing, still helping to write, coming in and recording as he can. And I think it's awesome that the band works with him that way and allows that to happen. I think that's a cool thing. Now, this was fun. This was just a fun exchange. I don't know if you guys saw this or were aware of this. Rage Against the Machine guitarist Tom Morello has been made the president of the Fonzie fan club. Yeah, it's official. Henry Winkler made him the president. So what happened is Henry Winkler was at a Springsteen show, and Bruce had Tom Morello come and play some songs. Well, Henry posts, at Tom Morello, you were on another level last night at the Forum. Thank you. Signed, Henry. And then in another post, he says, Tom Morello played like he was touched by God with Bruce S. And then he responded to another fan that Tom Morello was on fire. So apparently Henry really liked Tom's performance. Well, when Tom sees that, he responds with the tweet, I love the Fonz. And then later he posted again, as a kid, I was a member of the Fonzie fan club. I had a membership card and subscription to the official Fonzie fanzine. I planned my week around Happy Days on Thursday nights. So thank you at H. Winkler for real, Henry Winkler, for making my day. And then the love fest continues because then Henry responds, this post makes me so happy. Hey, remember when Fonzie would say, hey, okay, so he said that. So, and then later he says, I still cannot get over your post. I hereby make you the president of the fan club, Tom. Then here's my favorite part. Tom Morello responds, with humility, I accept this great honor. As president of the Fonzie fan club, I hereby appoint Leather and Pinky Tuscadero to my cabinet. That's funny. I mean, those of us that remember, how many of you remember Leather and Pinky? We all remember. Of course, Leather Tuscadero was actually, you know who I'm talking about. Susie Quattro played Leather Tuscadero. But that's a whole other story. Okay. That's fun. I do have an email that I want to share with you. By the way, email is always open, classicguitarrock@mail.com, classicguitarrock@mail.com. And I read them. Okay. If I get them, I read them, good, bad, indifferent. I read them. This one says, hey, Jeremy and CGR team. I don't really have a question. Just wanted to say hello. I live in Ohio and am an OTR drive. That's over the road drive. So this is a trucker. Over the past few years, I have become a podcast junkie and listen to them all day. I love yours and two that you have recommended. The Def Lep Pod. Oh, go back to an earlier episode where we interview Neil. Is his name Neil? Sorry, I'm not remembering your first name, but the guy that has the Def Lep Pod, just a very well done podcast. It's called Def Lep Pod. Check that out. And then the other one is, the Into the Void podcast. That's John and Darren who do the Black Sabbath podcast, Into the Void. Another great check both of those podcasts out. And now that you have a radio station, I'll be listening to that as well. Thanks, and keep on rocking, my friend. Trucker Gabe from Ohio. Trucker Gabe, thank you so much. Appreciate you listening and appreciate the plug for the new radio station. And let me plug it again. If you aren't aware, we have a live 24/7. Well, I shouldn't live. I don't know if I can't call it live, but yeah, whatever. 24/7. Okay. You can listen to the great guitar driven rock of the 60s, 70s, and 80s on the Classic Guitar Rock radio station. Punch in hashtag CGR radio and you'll see a link to it, or just Google Classic Guitar Rock Radio and you'll find it. It's on the Live 365 platform. You can go to live365.com, type in classic guitar. Mine's the first station. Don't type, you can type in classic rock and you'll eventually find it. Just type in classic guitar. It pops right up. You can listen to it. Guy, I know I'm biased because I build the playlist, but it's awesome. Dude, this morning, Desert Song by Michael Schenker popped up. Oh Candy by Cheap Trick play. Okay, you're going to hear the hits, right? You're going to hear Comfortably Numb, right? You're going to hear the hits that you hear on a classic rock station. Yeah, you got to hear those. But we go deeper, right? We're going to dig in deeper for you to do that. Talkzilla X says, or it is pinned at my X page. So go to Talkzilla's X page and it's pinned right there too. You can click right on the radio station. Talkzilla, thank you so much. Appreciate the plug. And I'm serious, guys. I want you to listen to it and then shoot me an email. What do you think? I think it's a pretty good mix of music. I'm just saying that. So Talkzilla, thank you for chiming in. Thank you all for checking out the update today. And again, check out the radio station. Whether you follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or X, or wherever, thank you for being there. We'll do this all again tomorrow. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Thanks for listening. You can email Jeremy at classicguitarrock@mail.com.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Tune in each weekday for the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update.